was exciting.
Yeah. After an abysmal showing on the Xbox 360 and PS3 with Sonic 06, Sega decided to throw their hat in the ring with the Nintendo Wii and Sonic and the Secret Rings, a brand new Sonic adventure utilizing the Wii's motion controls. Needless to say, it's garbage, and I didn't even finish it, which is why I brought Kyle along, because he had to suffer through the entire game.
I didn't have to. I chose to, and I regret it.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing a dual review, my first one in a long time, and Kyle's watched all, I would imagine he's watched most of my reviews, so he knows how this works. Let's talk about the story first. Story-wise, I actually think it has some good stuff going on for it. For starters, it takes place in the days of Arabian Nights. Sonic is transported into a storybook by a genie named Shara and has to save a world from an evil genie named Eraser Jin, who wants to take over their world by use of 7 MacGuffins known as the World Rings. When Sonic tries to step in, he gets hit with a flaming arrow, which drains his life force or something, so he has to do all this stuff within a time limit or else he'll die. Along the way, he runs...
No, he doesn't.
Or what, he doesn't die?
No, it's just that this time limit is very contrived and sort of self-implied, but there's no time limit.
I never really understood, like, they tell you, like, oh, if you don't do it in a certain time, you'll die, but the game isn't timed, like Kyle said. But anyway, along the way, he runs into other famous Arabian Nights characters like Ali Baba and Sinbad, all of which are portrayed by his friends like Tails and Knuckles. It's a pretty neat way to include them and does make for a handful of amusing scenes, but the story really doesn't get much deeper than that, and it's actually kind of stupid. I hate how it's told in these really lame, static images of, cutscenes. But I do like the idea here. It's a nice change of pace from the typical Sonic story and opens up the door for a lot of creative locales Sonic hasn't been before. Unfortunately, that's the only place this game has even a glimmer of hope.
Why was I under the impression that you did not like the concept of secret rings?
I think it's because on our forum, Level Up Leo was talking about how he doesn't like the concept. I myself think the concept is actually pretty cool. I like the whole Arabian Nights setting. It was something different for Sonic. It was better than just going through, green grassy levels and more factories and stuff. I think it's
Absolutely. It's a fantastic way of opening up a whole new various number of levels that Sonic has never explored.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool concept. It's not handled too well, unfortunately, because this whole game's just garbage, but yeah, the story is one of the only things going for this game. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the gameplay. The gameplay in Sonic and the Secret Rings is, in a word, horrible. You play with the Wii Remote on its side, but instead of playing an awesome old-school style platformer like Donkey Kong Country Returns, you instead only need 2 buttons, and the rest is controlled with waggle. Yeah, that's fun.
Twisty Wii controls, my friend. Wasn't this like a launch title?
No, it came out like in the first few months, though.
But still, I mean, that would explain that.
Yeah. Sonic runs on a straightforward path in a similar fashion to Crash Bandicoot, but he's constantly moving. You don't have direct control over whether Sonic moves forward or not. He's always moving, unless you hold down the brake button to stop and jump. In order to move Sonic left and right, you have to tilt the controller, and it is such a pain. He doesn't move quick enough, and the Wii was still in its infancy, so the controls weren't completely ironed out by the developers. Because he's in a constant state of motion, it's very easy to just run into a wall and get stuck, or run into an enemy multiple times and die.
I can confirm.
Even worse, in order to jump, you have to press the 2 button, which stops Sonic in his place, and then he jumps straight up. You have to flick the Wii Remote forward to jump forward or homing attack. This is the worst part of the game. The basic fundamentals of being a platformer are completely lost on this game because you stop moving when you jump, and you can't move until you flick the remote in the air. It's awful. Like, I don't understand why they thought this would be a good idea. You know how in most platforming games...
Because it was... You explained it already. It's because it's the Wii's in its infancy. No one knew what was good, what was bad yet.
I know, but it's like, you know how in most platforming games, when you jump, there's some sort of momentum? No, Sonic just jumps straight up, and you have to flick the freaking remote to get him to go. It's terrible. It's the worst, perhaps the worst controls in any Sonic game, and I played through Sonic 06.
No, but it is the worst. I'm trying to reel in what you can make a 3-paragraph rant into a 3-sentence valid argument.
Anyways, you can also walk backwards if you need to by holding down the brake button and flicking the remote towards you.
No. What you were saying, this is the worst part of the game. This is the worst part of its control.
Yeah, there was so many points where I had to, like, there was this one stage where you have to, like, hit a button by jumping, but I kept missing it, so I had to flip myself backwards to do it, and it's so impossible. The controls here are awful.
I had some rings that were impossible to get, so I decided to walk backwards, and I walked backwards into some spikes like 5 times.
Yeah, the walking backwards is so awkward, and it's just like, there's a D-pad right there. It's right next to your left hand. The only thing the D-pad is used for in this game are super moves Sonic gets. Press up when his meter is full, and he does a boost, similar to Shadow the Hedgehog's Chaos Control, and down slows down time, similar to the Prince of Persia, which likely is not just a coincidence. Neither of these moves seem to come in handy, and I barely use them. Throughout the course of the adventure, you can also unlock a number of different upgrades and abilities for Sonic, such as faster movement speed or more airtime. It takes time to unlock these things, and it's completely optional, and ultimately doesn't help with the already crippled controls. So don't even bother.
Can you do it in the air or on the ground?
I'm sure he can. Anyway, the stages in this game are also kind of lame and pretty boring. Most of them are just straight shots, since you don't really control where you go. This game has Final Fantasy XIII syndrome. Since you're constantly moving, you often run into enemies or traps really easily, and it can be difficult to attack them because you have to back up, which, as we discussed, is a pain to do. Just to attack an enemy you've likely already moved ahead of. If the controls had been better, these stages likely would have been more fun to play on.
They wouldn't.
They'd still be straight and boring, but you wouldn't constantly fall in pits or run into things because of stupid waggle. And to the game's credit, some of the stage tropes are pretty neat. I really like the concept behind Dinosaur Jungle and Pirate Storm. Running on the
Dinosaur Jungle doing in the Arabian Nights?
Well, other than that glaring flaw, running on the backs of dinosaurs is kind of awesome, and you can never really go wrong with pirates. I wish they were just a little better designed, or just in a better game, because I love when Sega breaks away from the usual tropes of green fields and high-tech factories, as I mentioned. What are your thoughts on the levels, Kyle?
You have... I pretty much said it with what's Dinosaur Jungle doing in the Arabian Nights.
It's true. If you're trying to be accurate to the Arabian Nights, there shouldn't be dinosaurs at all, but...
Because I thought that, establishing it in the Arabian Nights, it is the best thing in this game. And they should have elaborated on it more than they did.
They didn't really use it to its full effect. I don't think... dinosaurs just don't belong.
But still, yes, running on the backs of dinosaurs was fun.
Yeah, it was something unique for Sega and Sonic, and I thought it was pretty cool. But one thing I also really, really hate about this game is the way that you have to progress from one stage to the next. Instead of just jumping into the next stage once you beat the previous, like most Sonic games, you have to complete a number of missions in order to even unlock stages. These missions all take place in the same stages and normally just involve things like taking down a certain number of enemies, not getting hit, or collecting 100 rings. They're boring, and just the developers padding the game to make it seem like they're getting more bang for your buck. As an optional thing, sure, Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 both had missions, but they were never required just to progress in this game. To put it bluntly, I'm not a fan.
I remember hating that just because they had, that fake time limit they had established. It's like, you should just be able to take that straight path down the story.
Yeah, I have no problem with these extra missions being in there. You do unlock stuff for doing them, but, it just takes away from being a platforming game where you just go to the next level. It's a pain in the ass. Let's put it that way.
And it's very desensitizing to the whole experience.
It's
like, all right, I'm ready for the next level. Collect 100 rings first. You must.
Too bad you have to play these 5 missions before you can even go to the 3rd level of the game.
Tedious is the word for this.
Oh. Okay, so right about here, I would be discussing the bosses and the final boss of the game, because that's normally how these reviews work, but I didn't get there because I hate this game, so I'm going to let Kyle talk about the bosses here. Go ahead, Kyle. Tell us about the bosses, specifically the final boss.
Well, my goodness. The one thing that really irritated me is that if you lost, and you will lose constantly if you choose to, it starts you back over from the very beginning of each boss you fight, including all of the childish dialogue.
Oh boy.
A lot of the bosses I actually didn't have too much of a problem. What was that one that was like, it's in a big pit of lava and it's all surrounded by construction sites and like ancient construction. It's like you've got to actually it's actually kind of Shadow of the Colossus-y. And I thought that one was a lot of fun, but if I'm going to focus on the final boss, first off, Eraser Jin is just dumb. It's just a dumb name. I like the contrast of the Genie of the Ring being your companion and the Genie of the Lamp being the antagonist. I thought that was, kind of fun. But Eraser was just dumb. Ooh, it's Eraser plus Razor.
He's gonna erase the world. Get it? We're clever.
The boss fight itself is actually quite difficult, but mostly because it throws really cheap shots at you, and also because I was just completely tired of hearing the same dialogue over and over every time I lost. But what became really convoluted, contrived, and confusing for added alliterative appeal is when he goes one-winged angel. It's like after you beat him, I don't even remember what happened because this was 5 years ago. So don't blame me for not remembering because I've tried to not.
Yeah, he didn't go back and play it again.
But for some reason, he becomes this holy monstrosity of an Eraser Jin. But all of a sudden, 4 of the 7 secret rings suddenly merge with Sonic, and he becomes this game's version of Super Sonic. And you go into this nexus, and you have to chase him down, except you don't even know how to attack until you basically shake the Wii controls to realize, oh, that's right, the way I've been attacking this whole time is still how I'm supposed to be attacking. Because, sometimes games, whenever you're in a new form, have a quick explanation of how to attack. Oh, wait, that is in this game, after you figure out how to attack. Literally, I finally figure out how to actually attack in the final form, and then Shara explains, hey, you should shake your Wii remote to attack. I'm like, fucking thank you. Fucking thank you. So I had to do that about 20 times and listen to the dialogue 27 times. Because math is hard. Finally, I beat it, and I was like, hooray, and... you know how it ends, right?
Yeah, with the friggin' tissues. One of the stupidest endings in video game history.
That's right, something happened. Jin actually kills Shara, and then... But Sonic gets the lamp, so Sonic wishes for 3 things that resolve the entire plot and bring Shara back to life. And then, apparently in the epilogue, Shara says, Sonic runs endlessly and has lots of adventures that were probably more fun than the one that you just had, until he made his way home. And it's like, really? Really?
Terrible.
We don't even get some sort of resolution as to how he gets out of the Arabian Nights. The epilogue just says he gets out.
The end. Go play a better game. Sorry we wasted your time. To the game's credit, I think that the Super form, Darkspine Sonic, actually looks really cool, but it's so unnecessary because there already exists 2 different Super forms of Sonic. We didn't need a 3rd one. It looks cool, but it's unnecessary. Another thing I suppose I should mention about the game is the fact that there's a party mode, which is completely separate from the main game. Basically, it's a bunch of Mario Party minigames with Sonic characters and motion controls. None of them are really worth mentioning, and most of them require too much waggle to be fun or even work. But they're completely optional. I'm only mentioning them because if I don't, somebody will bring it up. Graphically, the game looks alright, I guess. I don't think it looks all that much better than the GameCube games, to be honest. I understand the Wii is the weakest, graphically, of the next-gen consoles, but I know it's capable of more than this. Some of the environments look pretty nice, though, and it's far from the worst-looking game I've ever played. And as far as the camera and glitches go, the camera is fixed, so it rarely goes off track, though there has been a time or two where it messed up on me, and it's genuinely less glitched out than the last few Sonic games, but the controls are so bad, it might as well just be glitching all the time, and I didn't realize it. The only time I could recall it possibly glitching is on the stage where the wind blows you back. You have to jump from these red hoop things by flicking the Wii remote, and sometimes I just completely whiff when jumping to the next one. I don't know if it's a glitch or just bad game design, but whatever it is, it's terrible. And on the audio side of things, in terms of music, I'm also not a fan of this game. Sega enlisted the help of a band called Rumblebee to do the music for every stage in the game, and almost every one of them has vocals, and let me tell you, they all suck. The main theme, Seven Rings in Hand, could very well be the worst song ever in a Sonic game. The lyrics are so poor, and the band performing it just isn't very good, and it plays on every menu screen in the game non-stop. It's annoying. Sure, one or two tracks here and there are kind of decent, but for the most part, the band just doesn't have the raw talent and energy of Crush 40, or the fun pop cheesiness of Cash Cash or Ted Poley. They just weren't a good pick to do the music, which is a shame because even the worst Sonic games tend to have decent music.
I didn't mind them so much, although I got real tired of Seven Rings in Hand.
The song is so bad and it plays everywhere.
I don't mind it, but it does play everywhere, and that makes me mind it.
Also, the voice acting is as bad as always. It's still the 4Kids cast, and boy do they never shut up, as Kyle already mentioned. Sonic and Shara share dialogue throughout each of the stages, and while sometimes the banter can be kind of fun, it's mostly just annoying, and when you're playing the same stage over and over and over again, you wish they just shut up every once in a while.
Watch out for those spirits!
Oh boy. Shara, look over there! Is that a dinosaur? Yeah, thanks, Jason Griffith. Thanks. And I just want to mention that the voice actor for Eraser Jin is one of the worst I have ever heard. Even for 4Kids, this guy is awful. Sonic and the Secret Rings is one of the worst Sonic games ever made. The controls are beyond terrible, the stages are boring, the progression is dumb, the music is way below Sonic standards, it's just not a good game. The only thing it even remotely has going for it is its setting. It's a shame because the Wii deserved a good Sonic game. Hell, at this point, the world was ready for a good Sonic game. Too bad we'd have to wait a little longer before we get to one. Anything else you want to add? Because that was the end.
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Alright, so tune in next time, and depending on my mood, I'll either be talking about a pretty good game or a really, really bad one. Thanks, Kyle, for joining me.
Absolutely.
You play with the Wii Remote on its side, but instead of playing an awesome... whoa. Let's cut that
Easy
out.
there. Chew your food.
I'm choking on my own spit.